chairman of the committee, and we have a quorum. I'd like to thank council members Mitchell Farrell and Joe Buscaino for being here on time in the rain, and all of you for coming as well. I know traffic requires a lot of patience this morning, and so I appreciate that everybody made it here safely is the most important thing. And so with that, and we have a quorum, I'm going to go ahead and open up to public comment first and foremost. And so if we can, we have 3 public comment cards. Are there any others here for public comment?
Those are for number 11.
These are for number 11. So never mind. We'll get to those on number 11. We'll open up for public comment. Nobody here for public comment. We'll close public comment then. And so we just closed public comment, sir. Started on time. So on those, if you don't have cards then submitted on any of the other items.
I have some cards.
I'm sorry, sir. You're disrupting the meeting. You can't walk in here and just start yelling. So, sir, go to the back of the room, please, and don't walk into this meeting and start yelling when you've walked in. This meeting starts at 8:30.
Public comment.
And if we don't have any card, whatever cards are submitted by the public that was here when we started the meeting, those are the items we're going to go ahead and take. Any of the other cards that are submitted for any of the other items will be noted and filed in the city clerk's system that they did file a comment card, but it came in late. And so with that, we're going to go ahead and take a number of items first on consent. And those will be items 1. And let me rephrase that. On consent, unless any of my colleagues want to call those items special. Items 2, 3, 5, 6, we could take 7 on consent, 8, 9, 12. Okay. And actually, let me back up to 9. The CAO report is not ready for 9, so we're going to go ahead and continue the professional service agreement for the CAO report. Since it wasn't ready, we'll continue that for the next meeting. So, I'm sorry, number 12, 13, 14, 15 through 22, I do have one question on, so we'll go ahead and hold that.
15 to 22 hold?
15 to 22, we're going to hear that because I just have one quick question. We can go ahead and approve 24 on consent, 25, and 26 and 27 as well. Those are, for the most part, most of those items are all grants and donations. And so the reports are pretty self-explanatory. And unless my colleagues have any specific questions on any of those items?
Move on them.
Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move all of those as approved and adopt any amended language and or CAO reports attached to those as well.
Thank you.
Okay, so that'll be the order without objection. And thank you all who were here this morning for those items. I truly appreciate it. So the next items we'll go ahead is we can start with item 10. While I'm going to ask planning to report back, the planning department to report back to this committee with specific recommendations, I would like to have a brief discussion on it, if we could. So if there's anybody here from LAPD that can speak to item 10, that would be great.
Item 10, Board of Police Commissioners report relative to enacting zoning and land use regulatory controls for massage therapy establishments consistent with state law for the enactment of Assembly Bill 1147 Bonilla pursuant to motion Englander Martinez.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the council. How are you this morning? Richard T. Fank, Executive Director of the Board of Police Commissioners. Before you have a staff report that was approved by the Board of Police Commissioners and forwarded to you requesting that 2 actions be taken to comport with new legislation under AB 1147, which deals with massage parlors and massage therapists. Our current ordinances do not comport with 1147, and we're requesting that the Planning Department consider ways to regulate the location of massage parlors. As a backdrop, 5 years ago, when the California Association of Massage Therapy Councils were created, if a massage parlor employed only those individuals who were state certified by the state of California through the California Association of Massage Therapy Council, they did not have to comply with a government's land use requirements. So a massage parlor could open up in any location as long as they had all state certified employees. With this legislation, that changes that. It gives the ability of local government to regulate the location of the parlors. And so what we're asking is that the council direct planning to develop rules and regulations through the ZAI or through a ordinance amendment to allow the ability of the city to impose a conditional use permit if necessary or other requirements so that we cannot have over-concentration of massage parlors in certain areas outside of the zoning that's appropriate. That's the first part of it. The second part is we need to change our local ordinance that permits us to issue a business license, or excuse me, a police permit to a massage business to comport with AB 1147. So I would ask that if the committee is so inclined, that you recommend the city attorney be requested to work with our staff to prepare the appropriate ordinance as it relates to amending our current ordinance to comply with the requirements of AB 1147 and bring that back separately so we can move forward and begin our regulation of massage establishments.
Great, thank you very much. And yeah, I did submit this motion along with Councilwoman Nury Martinez on AB 1147. There are a number of issues, as you just outlined, with the human trafficking, the flourishing, the proliferation of these through various communities, including my own district. And some of the ideas, I just want to thank you, Mr. Teefank, and the police department as well as Lieutenant Butler and Detective Kelly and others who have worked on this. There are a number of issues that you pointed out and ideas that need to be flushed out that I'd like to bring back to this committee. Some of the things that you all put together in the report, which makes a lot of sense in regulating the hours of operation, designated managers on site, various ideas in terms of the legality. Two of the things that I want, if I could, I'm going to ask the police department to further explore under your direction, Mr. Teefank, is the evaluation of the legality of prohibiting the outdoor marketing signs other than business names, rates, and hours. That evaluation in consultation perhaps with the city attorney, and also the legality of requiring the front lobby windows and doors to remain unobstructed without tint, curtains, windows, treatments. If we have that ability, I'd like some feedback on that as we start looking at the ordinance. I think those were very good suggestions. All of the other requirements obviously made a lot of sense with the prohibiting of adult toys, magazines, videos, etc. All of those things make sense. The prohibition of recording and visual and audio devices, all of those other things make sense. So we'll ask that if you can take up that part of it with the city attorney and report back. But then also we're going to ask at the same time for the planning department to write a report and come back to this committee in 6 weeks. So it'll be the first meeting in February that we'll have in public safety, and look at the zoning issues along with building and safety issues, rules and regulations, the idea of perhaps a ZAI, a zoning administrative approval, that would be either that or a conditional use permit, and some of the zoning prohibitions and regulations and restrictions that would make sense under this. And the whole idea is to keep the good operators in business. And when we say good operators, I mean there's some obviously upscale type spas and treatment facilities, physical rehabilitation centers, things that are actually really reputable businesses, but that there are obviously a number of these that aren't. And so I want to thank the state of California for recognizing that and giving us this authority finally to do something about it, and turn it over to my colleagues, first with Joe Buscaino, to weigh in on this as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for your leadership on this, you and Ms. Martinez. It's great to see forward progress on this issue, having served, 7 years as a senior lead officer and hearing from the Business Watch, Neighborhood Watch groups, their frustrations with an increase of massage parlors in and around the harbor area. I want to commend the Police Commission and our colleagues in the state of California, Assemblymember Bodilla, who led this charge in AB 1147, and having also serving as a board member of the California League of Cities. This is something that we fought and sought for and demanded local control when it came to regulating massage parlors in and around municipalities up and down the state of California, and also want to commend my colleagues on the statewide Public Safety Committee on the League of Cities. It's great to see, again, progress being made on this issue. This, with massage parlors and pot shops, this is when the city steps in and needs to regulate to send a message that enough is enough. And I'm really proud and supportive of the fact that we are moving forward. Can you explain to me the police permit issuance process?
Sure.
And how does just the entire, from start to finish, how does that work?
We'll deal with the business first in this situation. So an individual wants to open a massage business. They would have to come to the police commission. They have to attend a permit class. So we educate them about the requirements of being a permit holder, all the documents that are necessary. They must bring to us their, if it's a lease or a rental, their contract, so we have that information. Also, if it's a corporation, any articles of incorporation, they must have live scan for the person opening the business or who will be the owners and operators of that business. A variety of other information they give us. Then there's a background check done through that live scan to ensure that the operator has no criminal background that would exclude them from operating that type of business. Meanwhile, they also must get a sign-off from under our new process where they would be able to have land use regulation from the planning department, building and safety. All of that would come to us. If they met all the requirements, it would be a recommendation to issue the permit, and it would come to me under
Where does the Department of Finance fall into this?
The Department of Finance would only fall into where they would pay their fee for the permit, and they would have to get a business tax.
Will there be any notifications to the respective council districts once these pop up?
Any permit that we issue, notice goes to the council district on this type of a business. Back to the Office of Finance. So
right.
They would issue a business tax registration certificate, and also they would accept the fee. We do not collect the money. Mm-hmm. They would accept the fee for the operation.
And you would approve the permit?
We would approve the permit. We're the permit approvers.
Very good. It's great to see movement on this and seek support. And then, Mr. Chair, you wanted to send this to the planning department for further or not?
No, there's no need.
No?
No, I think what we'll do is we'll go ahead and bring it back. We're going to ask the planning department under Michael LeGrand to come up with his suggestions and options as it relates to planning regulations. But this is really beyond just a zoning issue, quite frankly, and I don't want it to get lost in the fact that it's truly a public safety issue, and that a lot of these are fronts for prostitution,
right.
For human trafficking, exploitation of young women, and so this is truly a crisis,
right.
and I want that to ensure that we make sure that we keep that in mind as we move forward. So with that,
I wouldn't mind asking
Yeah.
something if you please.
Well, no, I was going to.
Of course. This is a step in the right direction. I'm pleased to support it.
Thank you. I think it's a step in the right direction as well, and thank you, Mr. Tiefenk. So historically, massage parlors have had a bad reputation. Prostitution, human trafficking, it's all been talked about. At the same time, massage has gone mainstream, and we have some very legitimate businesses. Like in my district, we have Detox Spa and Atwater Village, great business. We've got Massage Envy everywhere, and also the Burke Williams spas and all that. So I just want to urge really consideration and thought about how to assist the good guys in this business so that we can make this wonderful amenity available to more everyday people. and while, punishing the bad guys. I'm all for it. So I just wanted to suggest that, and I look forward to the report back and working with you and with the Planning Department on how we can craft conditions that reward the good behavior, and that's really important, I think. And it's also, the Massage Envy chains, they're spreading everywhere. We don't want to lock them out of Los Angeles.
Right.
So that's a good thing, too. So,
And we concur with your comments, Councilman. As to the land use issues, those are probably more of a concern as it relates to what you just indicated. As to the business operation of the types of spas and therapy locations that you spoke about, those are not the locations that have been problematic. The difficulty is the balance, because we can't create two sets of business rules. There can only be one set of business rules. And we have not had difficulty in doing that in the past, but we're very sensitive to what you said, and be assured that when the ordinance does come back, that on the business side of the operation, that we will have all of those issues addressed.
thank you. I think it's a good state law, and I think that it does give us tools that we didn't have previously to better regulate at the local level. So great work. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, if I could just clarify for the committee, what we're asking is that the committee recommend to the City Council the direction to the City Attorney to work with our staff to amend the business license portion of that, so then the City Attorney would have the direction from Council to do that, work with us, and then we would bring back to the committee that ordinance after the City Attorney has worked on it as to the business permit side of it.
How soon can we see that?
But that's what I was asking, is that we want to hear this back in the first meeting in February. So that'll be the 13th.
I think we can have a draft ordinance on the business side back to you by then.
Yeah, and then Planning Department, obviously they've been short-staffed as well. So
We'll anticipate full council giving the direction to the City Attorney, and we'll begin working on that.
Terrific.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, terrific, excellent. Then that'll be in order. We'll go ahead and come back with those recommendations. But before we do that, it actually isn't requiring a vote, because we're simply bringing it back.
Understood.
Continuation. So that'll be the recommendation anyway, that it'll come back then.
Got it.
Herman, you came in late, disrupting this meeting, walking in, yelling in this meeting. I want to acknowledge that you did that, and then you were warned, and you kept doing it. You did that, fill out a number of cards, as you do on every single item, every single day. And so I'm going to give you a minute, up to 3 minutes, even though I've already called for all the cards before you walked in and then after you walked in, and they still weren't submitted. But I'm going to give you have a card in on this. I'll give you a minute to speak on this item. And we'll just take all of your items that you filled out, cards, all at the same time. So go ahead and speak to all those items, and we'll give him his 3 minutes to speak on all those items.
Mr. Chair, good morning. However, it's unreasonable to not
You still stay on subject.
deny participation. It would be unconstitutional. But the point of interest, as brought out by the Police Commission regarding these whorehouses, WHORE, because that's what they're turning out to become. Has the city not found the resources yet to permit or not allow? You should first train these facilities before offering them a license, similar to a necessity for alcohol and convenience, but that's another topic when it comes to a permit. But education should come out of the resource of the city and speed away from the red tape and allow these businesses, if they're legit and have the credentials to do so and manage their business without children involved. I find it not offensive. So let me correct you, sir. When it comes to the Board of Police Commission, when we were speaking regarding donations, that donations delegated for the purpose of the police board should always be welcome. And we should manage not by the city, but by Charlie Chief Beck to manage how those resources are spent and not be double dipped by the city or LAPD, but solely for the purpose of the Police Commission and Charlie Chief Beck to make that decision. So in my closing remarks, I apologize for my abrupt running in from the rain this Friday. And to all those listening in, it's not unreasonable to allow us to speak and be heard on agenda items.
You're not speaking on the items at all right now? That's a general
I'm
public
speaking
comment, which you didn't
regarding
fill out.
products of
Sir,
service.
that's your second
The
warning on that?
Services, sir, that are rendered by the city are rendered on this agenda. And to deny me to speak about the valued amounts
You're speaking now. You're not
from
being
the-
denied at all.
from the process of the donations, I have every right to mention off topic, just to submit my personal point of view, sir. Because as you see in here, most people from the city are not even here. I'm the only person speaking
Again,
on
that's not
agenda
on topic,
items.
so that was your
And
third
have a good
warning.
morning, sir.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll go ahead and move the item to February 13th to come back here as well, as with all the specific direction and instruction. Excellent. That'll be the order for item 10. Thank you. All right, for items 15 through 22, colleagues, did you have any questions? I had one question on that, but no. Okay, my only question on that is these are rarely ever used accounts, and I understand why these trust funds were set up and the purpose, and we've had these in here every single year, as we do. In Council District 13, that was the most significant change from $17,000 in the closing balance, $17,655 to 1.7, a little over 1.7 million. So if you can walk us through where those funds were generated or what that was about.
Sure. Ruben Veramontes, City Clerk's Office. Those monies that came into that fund were actually from developers. They gave money for benefits to the community for CD13. So that's where the huge amount of money came in from. So there were three contributions there.
And those were part of development agreements that were already voted on by council?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they were all accepted via those council motions that are listed there.
Got it. Okay.
So as you stated before, all the other funds pretty much have no activity or have not had activity in quite an amount of years now.
Yeah, it's pretty rare to
Yeah.
use a lot of these, and a lot of them have nonprofits associated with the divisions as well as
Correct.
Solid and others that
Correct.
a little easier to raise money out of 501c3s and manage it with a board. There's a lot more oversight in the funds, and so, yeah.
That's correct.
Okay. All right, I don't have any other questions. The approval's been moved, seconded, and we'll go ahead, and that'll be the order without objection. Great. Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, next item, please.
Item 4.
Yes.
Item 4, Board of Police Commissioners and CIA reports relative to the 2014-2016 Intellectual Property Enforcement Grant Award in the amount of $456,413 from the DOJ for use by LAPD's Anti-Piracy Unit and the City Attorney for the period October 1st through September 30th, 2016.
Okay, I have a quick question. Is there a CAO here? Yeah. The question I had on this is we're paying for the half of a cost of a new deputy city attorney when it appears that most of this work is done, or there's a good portion done, by the city attorney's office. And I'm just wondering if that's enough that's allocated towards the city attorney's office at $456,000. It's not a lot of money, but it's a lot of money in terms of where it's allocated. So $300,000 for sworn overtime, but only 50% for a half time for a deputy city attorney on this, and it would appear that that's most of the work. And I'm just wondering if that allocation has been worked out with the city attorney's office.
It has. It was part of the grant application and was approved by the grantor. So that was developed between city attorney and the police department.
Okay. So city attorney's office is okay with that?
Yes.
On the record. Okay. Then we'll go ahead and move to accept and approve. Great. Excellent. Okay. Thank you very much.
Remaining on your agenda are items 23, the item 11. I think that's it, 11 and 23.
Okay, we'll go ahead and let's take items 23 because it's going to be quick, and I just wanted to speak to that for a quick moment.
Item 23 is a Police Department report relative to the payments of a reward offer totaling $75,000 to claimants for information leading to the arrest and conviction of the defendant convicted for the shooting death of Mr. Carlos Hernandez and Mr. Alejandro Garcia.
Great. And I don't know if my colleagues have any comments or questions on that. I just had a statement.
Go ahead.
Often it is said that we give out these reward motions or offer these reward motions for the apprehension and conviction in these terrible, heinous crimes, and that we shouldn't be doing it because they don't result in any leads, that nobody's ever convicted or apprehended, and that people that actually are labeled as snitches get in trouble or are targeted, and nothing can be further from the truth. And so I wanted to just make sure we went on record and not just approve this on consent, that somebody did step up and, in fact, put their own life, if you will, on the line. In fact, they came out to testify at trial, and now this person is serving 21 years. Gomez was sentenced to 21 years in prison because of this. This reward motion being paid out not only gives this family closure, but it provides the needed justice, and that we don't often see, or don't always see, I should say. So they stepped up. They've been protected and moved, this family, and but they did the right thing. And for that, they're receiving also a $75,000 reward motion. And so I support it, and this is not the first one to come through this committee to approve, and it certainly won't be the last.
Yep, here.
All right, so we'll go ahead and move that with approval as well.
Very good. Your last item is item 11. Motion O'Farrell, Blumenfield Wesson, requesting the Bureau of Sanitation, the LA Fire Department, CAO, LA County Department of Public
Yes.
Health, and Plains All-American Pipeline to report relative to the rupture of an above-ground pipeline at the 5100 block of West San Fernando Road on May 15th, 2014.
Okay, with that, I'm going to turn it over to Councilmember Mitch O'Farrell. Now, I do have 3 speaker cards, so if you want to, however you want to take those first or last, I'll leave that to you, but I'll turn this item over to you as your motion as well.
Okay, actually, the speaker cards are the speakers, the presenters. So thank you, Mr. Chair. So stepping forward today is the Honorable Rudy Zvornich, President of Zvornich Government Affairs, along with Larry Kipps, Western Region Manager of Plains All-American Pipeline, and Nikiabi Gasuchi. Did I say that right? Gasuhi. From Plains All-American Pipeline. As you just heard, there was a valve that malfunctioned back on May 15th, which resulted in the spilling of 10,000 gallons of crude oil in North Atwater Village. The fire department, the Los Angeles Fire Department, in true to form, behaved exceptionally, worked with a few local merchants, especially a cement company, to help stop the flow of the crude into the LA River, and acted with great expediency and cleaned it up really quickly, and the environmental damage was pretty much non-existent because of that. As this committee heard back in October, we had a presentation on the details of the cleanup, the incident, the valve that replaced the faulty valve, etc. And so today we have the report back with the 2 final reports, the State Fire Marshal's report and the Plains Internal Engineering report on how to make the particular pump station where the valve is located better and improved, so to make sure this doesn't happen again. So with that, I turn the floor over to Mr. Zvornich.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and colleagues. Former Council President Pro Tem Rudy Zvornich, Jr. of the dark side of the Force, representing Plains All-American Pipeline today. As Councilman O'Farrell mentioned, following up on a May 15th incident of a rupture of a valve at site, following up on the October 1st meeting of this committee. This committee instructed us to come back to you within a couple of months in regards to finalizing this issue by going over the State Fire Marshal's report, as well as an internal engineering report on how we could make the pump station safer, better, and if an unfortunate incident would occur again, how we could reduce the ramifications to the surrounding neighborhood. Mr. Kippis today will go over the engineering report. Mr. Gahuhi will go over the State Fire Marshal's report. And then following any questions that you may have, we would respectfully request that the item be received and filed, and we believe they've done a really good job on it. And after their presentation or during, if you have any questions, that would be great. And so with your permission, if Mr. Gahuhi could go over the State Fire Marshal's report rather quickly, and then Mr. Kippis could go over the engineering report, we're ready for any questions that you may have.
That'd be terrific. Please proceed.
Okay. Thank you. The State Fire Marshal report was submitted last month to the State Fire Marshal, and the information in the report is essentially the same as the information we presented to committee back in October, with the exception of the additional items mentioned on page 13 of the report that identifies the studies that Mr. Kippis will go over, and also the repaving of the Brazil Street west of San Fernando Road. So essentially, the root cause analysis is still the same, was still the same, that the failure of the bonnet screws caused the section of the valve to open up and release the oil. And so that remained the same, and the response actions remained the same, no difference there. And again, the only difference really is the engineering studies that we did, the recommendations we had come out of that, and then the repaving of Brazil Street.
Good morning. Lanny Kippis, District Manager for the Operations for Plains in the Los Angeles and Long Beach area. Plains had hired an independent engineering firm to assist us with the evaluation of the Long Beach Station pump to fulfill the request from the councils on what we can do to better contain an oil and keep it within our property limits in an event that we do have another catastrophic event. Bless you.
Thank you. Thank you. Excuse me.
As you see from on the first page, the blue lines indicate that we have an existing berm containment around our piping facilities, and then the blue dotted lines are proposed additional berms that we plan on installing around the outer perimeter, just in case there are any unfortunate fugitive sprays, oil sprays that may get outside the original containment around the piping. In addition, as far as the valve goes, I think it also states in the report on page 13, on page 13, that the design valve has been replaced from a ball valve to a gate valve, which we're confident that we will not experience another release such as a failure of the valve that like we had on the ball valve. In addition to on trying to contain these, we plan on installing slats in the chain link fence, and you'll see that outlined on the yellow around the outer perimeter. That's more or less to give it some additional privacies than from the public. On page 2 are some engineering issues that we're trying to, we're looking into putting on these engineering spray shields, if you will, on some of our more critical appurtenances on the piping. And so these are designed to, if you do have a release, it will disperse and actually keep the spray towards the ground. So versus like what we had before, where it actually went up in the air. We are still addressing these as far as not all these items have been installed yet, but we are moving in the direction and getting these matters taken care of.
Terrific. Mr. Kippis, what's the timeline for the installation of these protective measures?
Relatively quick, and so it's just a matter of identifying those critical appurtenances on the piping manifold and ordering the respective equipment. So I think it's something that whether they have them in stock or whatever, but it should be by the end of January, February. It would be relatively quick, I would think.
And to your knowledge, have all the claims that were made, I think it was a very limited number, but have they all been dealt with, and are they being, due diligence completed, et cetera, to your knowledge? I've heard nothing myself, but I would love to hear if you have any information about.
I believe they are. I believe the only one that's still open is the one with the property owner to the north, who owned the club and also the plumbing store.
Okay.
So I believe that there's still some negotiations going on there. But I believe all the other ones have been settled.
All right. The club, that's very genteel of you to refer to it as the club. There's still probably a lot of explaining to do from some of the clients that were there that evening. Okay, so that's good. And to your knowledge, any other concerns that you think, last, things that need to be mitigated, or it's pretty much anything else?
Yeah, we did submit some reports to the county, who was the lead on this from the environmental standpoint, and they received that report. We did get some questions back from the water board, so we did meet with them on Monday, and we have a couple of things to follow up with them in terms of providing additional information.
Okay. I agree that it can be note and filed, and maybe on those last pieces of communication between the agencies, you can just report to my office. I'm very, very satisfied that the Plains Pipeline Company has done their diligence on all of this, and so I want to thank you for that and for not just your willingness, but your eagerness to come back and report to the committee, because I know it's important to you, and it's important to the city and to the residents of Atwater Village. And I just want to take a moment to thank again our own Department of Sanitation, Los Angeles County Department of Public Health, National Ready Mixed Concrete Company, that basically, because they had the materials, it stopped the leak from going into the river, which is really important. And then I can't say enough about the Los Angeles Fire Department on the scene that day. And I think the temperature on the ground that day was about 120 degrees when the sun came out, so it was pretty intense. Well done, and there's really nothing more to say. Thanks for coming in on a rainy morning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to really take this time to acknowledge Mr. O'Farrell for his leadership on this, and quite frankly, holding you accountable for the accident. And that's exactly what, in light of the impacts it had in the surrounding businesses, and potentially almost the river. I want to thank Mitch for bringing you to the table and asking the tough questions, and thank you for, like Mitch mentioned, for embracing this process and answering those tough questions so that we all know what went wrong. We had those answers. The Port of Los Angeles that I represent, I want to say the largest industrial area in the city of Los Angeles, and oftentimes we have an accident here and there, and when it impacts communities and neighborhoods firsthand, we need to call everyone to the table, and that's what Mr. O'Farrell has done, and I want to thank you as a company for agreeing to do just that. You could have easily said, thank you very much, we did our job, off you go, but really appreciate your effort and your commitment to the process. Thank you.
Thank you.
You couldn't have said that better. I totally agree. No, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate your leadership. Okay, so we'll go ahead and move this, receive and file, move it out onto council as well.
Thank you all very much, and a very good holiday to all of you.
Great.
Thanks,
Oh,
Rudy.
thank you. Thank you very much. Any other items? No. Okay, so we are adjourned. Be safe. Thank you.
Thanks for making it.